It came on a Wednesday, one of those generic white envelopes with the intimidating black letters. Internal Revenue Service. I almost tossed it onto the counter without looking. I figured it was a tax transcript or one of those "we've updated our records" notices. Boring stuff. But the return address said Austin, Texas, and we lived in Colorado. That was the first red flag. I opened it, expecting a mistake. Inside, a short letter, crisp and sterile. Your Social Security number has already been used in a filed joint return for tax year 2023. If you believe this is an error, contact the IRS immediately. My heart didn't skip. It stalled. I hadn't filed yet. Neither had Lana, or so I thought. We always did it together in late March. I checked the date. Filed. February 3rd. Too early. Too suspicious. Too far from anything that made sense. I reread the line. Joint return. With who? Because it sure as hell wasn't with me. I didn't call the IRS that day. I needed to be sure before I triggered anything official. So instead, I checked our home tax folder. The drawer where we kept old W-2s, receipts, prior year's filings, the boring paper trail of a middle-class marriage. Nothing new. I checked our shared Dropbox folder, the one where we used to upload documents for our tax guy. Number 2023 folder. So either she filed separately or she filed with someone else. And somehow, my Social Security number was part of it. Which meant Lana made that happen. Which meant she knew exactly what she was doing. That night, she came home smiling like always. Kissed me on the cheek. Tossed her bag on the counter. How was your day? Fine, I said. Yours? Long, she said, pouring herself a glass of wine. That new associate is driving me insane. But I survived. I nodded. Watch her. Waited. She didn't flinch. Didn't fidget. Didn't act like she committed tax fraud with another man. Just smiled, kicked off her shoes, and settled in like nothing had happened. That night, while she showered, I checked her purse. Not proud of it. Not ashamed either. Her wallet. Receipts. A pack of gum. Lipstick. Nothing unusual. But then I found a folded page wedged between two notebooks. A loan application. From Liberty National Credit Union. Her name and another name. Nathan Bell. Joint applicant. Co-borrower. Address in Texas. Texas. I took a photo of it. Put it back exactly how I found it. Then I sat on the edge of our bed and waited for the water to stop running. I stared at the carpet. I counted the ceiling tiles. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Cold. Focused. Done. The next morning, I got up early. Printed the letter from the IRS. Printed the loan document photo. Googled Nathan Bell. It didn't take long. Social media still works, even when people think they're being discreet. He had a Facebook profile. Realtor. Based in Austin. Mid-30s. Divorced. And there she was, 2 photos deep. My wife. Smiling at a cookout, holding a red Solo cup. Same hair. Same necklace I gave her 2 Christmases ago. Tag. Weekend Rewind Fire. Location. Lake Travis, TX. Date. February 4th. One day after the IRS filing. That was the moment everything fell into place. The girl's trip in early February. The change in her tone. The new password on her phone. It wasn't stress. It wasn't work. It was Nathan. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed time. And I needed someone better at this than me. So I called Claire. Claire was a corporate attorney I knew through a colleague. Smart. Precise. Ruthless when she needed to be. I sent her the documents. The letter. The photo. The screenshot. The co-signed loan. She called me back that afternoon. Jason, she said, you're sitting on a gold mine. I'm sitting in a lie, I replied. Which means we get to control how it ends. I like that. That night, Lana curled up beside me in bed and showed me some dumb video on her phone. She laughed like nothing in the world was broken. And I smiled with her. Because I was already 4 steps ahead. She just didn't know it yet. Claire didn't waste time. She sent me a checklist, items to gather, things to watch for, and, most importantly, what not to do. You don't confront her. You don't change your routine. You don't act different. From now on, your job is to observe and collect. So I did exactly that. Every morning, I woke up next to a woman who had filed a joint tax return with another man. Every evening, I ate dinner across from someone who was living a double life, one with weekend barbecues in Texas and loan applications in someone else's name. And every night, I documented. First, I started with our home network. Our router saved login histories, IPs, devices, timestamps. I logged into the admin panel, something I hadn't done in years. There it was, her iPad. Last login, 1:47 a.m. the night she returned from the girls' trip. I checked the history. The sites. She logged into a financial portal in Texas. Liberty Credit. Same name as on the loan application. I took screenshots of every page, timestamp included. Then I moved to her laptop. She kept it password protected, but not encrypted. Claire had given me a tool to clone her drive without altering a thing. No changes, no access logs. One flash drive, 15 minutes, and I had a full copy. Inside, emails, PDF contracts, chat logs with a contact labeled NB. The tone of the messages was casual, flirty, and, at times, transactional. They were planning a second property. She was listed as co-investor. I saved all of it. Next, finances. Claire told me to monitor joint accounts for unusual withdrawals. 3 days in, I noticed a $3,200 transfer from our savings to a checking account I didn't recognize. Not in her name. Not in mine. I walked into our bank and requested an account trace under spousal fraud suspicion. They wouldn't give me access, but they confirmed the account was opened recently, and that the primary holder was Nathan Bell. That was enough. I requested an official incident record for documentation and filed a silent fraud flag on the savings account to freeze further withdrawals. I left the bank without saying a word to her. That night, she smiled over dinner. I was thinking we should finally take that trip to Seattle, she said. Just us. No friends, no plans. I smiled back. Sounds good. Because it did sound good. Good for my case. A few days later, I tracked her phone using our shared family plan. Not live tracking, just the device sync log. She hadn't disabled location history. Over the past month, she'd spent at least 4 hours on 3 different occasions at a luxury apartment complex across town. One that had just gone up last year. The leasing office had online listings. Unit 506, reserved under N. Bell and L. Hale. I submitted a public records request to the county. Claire helped me write the wording just right. 3 days later, I had it in hand. Joint lease agreement dated January 12, 2023. Duration, 12 months. Monthly rent, $2,650. She wasn't just cheating. She was cohabitating part-time. The anger never came. What replaced it was sharper, focus. I had a folder now. Physical. Thick. Dividers labeled. Tax fraud, banking, lease, messages, photos. Claire called it the binder. Judges don't care about tears, she told me. They care about evidence. You're giving them a clean timeline, a clear motive, and undeniable misconduct. Is it enough? It's more than enough, she said. Most people blow up and destroy their own credibility. You're building a masterpiece. That word stuck with me, masterpiece. Not revenge. Not chaos. Just control. I started recording small things. Phone calls when she slipped into the garage to talk. Texts when she stepped outside and smiled while typing. Her sudden interest in bank mail, when she never cared before. Each time, I logged it in a spreadsheet. Date, time, behavior, follow-up. The picture came into focus. She was slowly moving assets. Quietly. Preparing an exit or a shift. But she didn't know I was already ahead of her. She thought I was the kind of man who didn't notice details. And maybe I used to be. Not anymore. 2 weeks into collecting, Claire sent me a draft. Divorce papers, prepped and bulletproof. Costs, fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. Attached, a motion to freeze joint assets, request for full spousal support termination, and request to claim marital home in full due to financial deception. It's almost ready, she said. We're just waiting on one final piece, confirmation from the IRS. She'd filed a legal inquiry on my behalf. They responded 2 days later. Her return had listed my SSN, but used Nathan's name on line 1. She'd forged a filing in my name without listing me as a spouse. It was identity fraud, and she hadn't even realized it. Claire sent the final version. Your move, she said. That night, Lana came home with takeout. Got your favorite, she said. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't guilty. She thought she'd gotten away with it. We ate quietly. She asked if I wanted to watch something. I said I had work. Then I sat in the den and stared at the divorce papers on my screen. It wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about the fact that she'd rewritten our marriage like it didn't matter. Like it was disposable. Replaceable. Like I was just a placeholder in the version of her life she showed the world. I clicked print. 6 copies. I stacked them, labeled them, and slid them into a slim black folder. I didn't know when I'd hand them over yet, but I knew how. And that part? That part would be perfect. The trick was patience. Claire told me not to rush. Let her feel safe. Let her think she's ahead. That's when the blow lands hardest, when it's silent and clean. So I waited. I kept making coffee for both of us every morning. Kissed her goodbye at the door. Answered her texts with little thumbs-up emojis. Let her think nothing had changed. But in the background, I was planning the exact moment everything would. I chose a Thursday. No special reason. Just far enough from the weekend that she couldn't hide, and close enough to payday that she'd already moved funds, and I could freeze them the moment I filed. I called Claire to confirm everything was in place. The paperwork is ready. You'll file in person at 9 a.m., she said. After that, we'll serve her within 48 hours. Want to be there when it happens? No, I said. I want her to be alone when it hits. She paused. Cold, she said. I like it. The day before, Lana seemed especially affectionate. She brought me lunch at work. Smiled more than usual. Asked about my weekend plans, as if the world she was building behind my back wasn't already crumbling under her. At dinner, she mentioned a bonus she was expecting. Things are really picking up, she said. I think we'll finally be able to do the kitchen remodel this fall. I nodded. That'd be nice. I didn't even ask where the bonus was coming from. I already knew, the same account she co-managed with Nathan. The one I'd already flagged with Claire's help. It was almost funny. Like watching someone decorate a house that's already been sold. That night, I reviewed the plan again. 9 a.m., file at the courthouse. 10 a.m., freeze joint accounts. Noon, notify property manager to restrict changes to title. 3 p.m., process server delivers documents to her office. Simple, direct, legal, and final. The next morning, I got up early and shaved clean. Wore a navy button-down. Nothing flashy. Just professional enough that I wouldn't be remembered by courthouse staff, but serious enough to be taken seriously. I left Lana a note. Running errands before work. Might be home a little late. It was the last lie I'd ever tell her. At 9:02 a.m., I signed the first set of documents in the county clerk's office. The woman at the desk barely looked up. To her, I was just another file, another broken marriage. She handed me the stamped copy. Best of luck, sir. Thanks, I thought. But I don't need luck. I have evidence. At the bank, I sat with a branch manager and showed her the legal freeze order. She nodded, made a few calls, and within 20 minutes, everything was locked. Savings, checking, brokerage. No withdrawals allowed without court order. I walked out feeling nothing. No adrenaline. No thrill. Just clarity. By noon, I was back at my office. Claire sent me a text. Process server confirmed. She'll be served at 3 o'clock sharp. Sitting in her office. Alone. I replied. Perfect. At 3:04, my phone buzzed again. A photo. Lana at her desk, envelope in hand. Frozen. Staring. Alone. I saved it. Not out of spite, but for the file. For the record. For the truth. She called at 3:11. I didn't answer. She texted at 3:13. What is this? At 3:15. Jason, call me right now. At 3:20. Are you kidding me? Who told you? And finally, at 3:27. Please. We can talk. Just call me. I turned off my phone. At 6:02, I walked into the house. She was already there, pacing the living room, her hair pulled back, a mess of tissues and unopened wine on the table. You're not even going to speak to me, she snapped. I walked past her. Put my keys down. I think the paperwork said everything. Her voice cracked. Jason, this isn't what you think. No. I asked, calmly. You didn't commit tax fraud using my social? Didn't open a joint loan with someone else? Didn't file paperwork listing me as a spouse without telling me? She opened her mouth. Closed it. I sat down. Calm. Still. Centered. You want to know the part that gets me? I said. It's not the lies. It's not even the cheating. It's the arrogance. You really thought you'd just slide into a new life and I'd never notice. I didn't, she started. But I did. I cut her off. And I didn't yell. Didn't scream. I just planned. She stared at me. Pale. Wordless. I stood up. You have 30 days to respond. I suggest you read carefully before you do. Then I walked upstairs. She didn't follow. Later that night, I heard her crying. Not sobbing. Not pleading. Just a low, defeated sound. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No guilt. No pity. Only peace. The next morning, Lana was gone before I woke up. No note. No text. No passive-aggressive silence in the kitchen. Just absence. I sat at the table with my coffee, the house quiet again. Cleaner somehow. Like the air was finally honest. By 9 a.m., Claire had already emailed me. She's retained a lawyer. They're asking for mediation instead of full litigation. I didn't respond right away. I wanted to see how she would play it. At 11:42 a.m., a new message came from Lana herself. Jason, please don't do this in court. Let's talk. Just you and me. I owe you that much. She was right. She did owe me. But not a conversation. She owed me consequences. That night, she came home around 7, still dressed in her work blazer, heels clicking nervously against the hardwood. Can we talk? She asked, standing in the doorway like a stranger. I looked up from my laptop. You've had months to talk. You used them to lie. I made a mistake. No, I said flatly. You made a second life. She stepped forward, hands up like I was a wild animal. We can work through this. I've been seeing a therapist, Jason, even before all this. I was confused, but I want to fix it. I stood slowly, walked over to the sideboard, and opened the file drawer. Pulled out a thick black folder, the one Claire and I had built. I dropped it on the counter between us. Page 1, the tax fraud, I said. Page 2, the loan with Nathan. Page 3, the fake lease. Page 4, the money you moved. Her face drained. You were spying on me? I almost laughed. You committed federal fraud, Lana. I was documenting. She didn't speak after that. She just picked up her purse and left. Over the next week, the pressure started coming from other directions. First, her mother called. Jason, she began, trying to sound gentle. I know things are hard right now, but marriages go through phases. Margaret, I cut her off. Did you know your daughter opened a joint credit line with a man in Texas while she was still living with me? Silence. Then, I didn't know it was that serious. It's worse than that, I said. But I'm not here to explain. I'm just telling you this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a decision. And the next time I hear from anyone on her side of the family, I'll add it to the harassment file. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. Lana tried again. This time through mutual friends. Dinner invites, coffee accidents, people showing up at my office to check in. I didn't bite. Claire told me this was standard. They'll try every angle, emotion, nostalgia, even public sympathy. Let them burn out. So I did. And they did. In mediation, her lawyer opened with a smile. We're hoping to reach a dignified agreement for both parties. Claire didn't smile back. So far, one party has acted with dignity, she said. The other forged a tax filing and lied under federal penalty. We're open to settlement, but not generosity. We offered her exactly what was fair minus everything she tried to steal. No spousal support. Full claim to the house under protection clause. Freezing all accounts until distribution. Her lawyer looked rattled. Lana didn't even speak. She just stared at the table. Back at home, I cleared out her things from the hallway closet. Shoes, jackets, random tote bags she never used but refused to throw out. I packed them in 3 boxes. Left them in the garage. Texted her. Your things are boxed. Please pick them up by Friday. After that, they'll be donated. She replied 2 hours later. You're being cruel. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. One evening, a package arrived addressed to me. No sender name. Inside, a hardcover photo album. Our wedding. Our vacations. Notes she'd written inside the covers. Dates. Memories. It was her last play. Nostalgia. I sat with it for a moment. Looked at one photo, a beach in Oregon. I remembered that day. The wind. The weird crab we found. But it was gone now. The photo didn't bring warmth. Just closure. I closed the album, put it back in the box, and left it next to the rest of her things. Claire called the next day. She's accepted the terms. We just need one more signature and this thing is done. I felt nothing. No triumph. No sadness. Just release. Later that night, Lana texted again. Do you hate me? I stared at the screen. Typed. Deleted. Typed again. No. But I respect myself too much to ever let this happen again. I had sinned. Then turned off my phone. It was strange how quiet everything became once the signatures were done. The final papers came through on a Tuesday. Claire forwarded the confirmation with a short message. Congratulations. It's over. Just like that. 10 years together, dissolved into 2 signatures, a court stamp, in a PDF. No shouting. No lawyers screaming across a courtroom. No drama. Just precision. The decree gave me full rights to the house. Claire had structured the settlement under protective financial interest, which meant that because Lana had acted in bad faith, I was awarded sole ownership. She walked away with her clothes, her car, and her 401k. Everything else, the house, the stocks, the savings she hadn't touched, was mine. It wasn't just about winning. It was about setting a line that wouldn't be crossed again. The day after it was finalized, I changed the locks. Not out of fear. Out of finality. I removed the spare key from under the porch brick, tossed her old robe that still hung on the back of the bathroom door, replaced the photos on the hallway shelf with prints of landscapes, quiet, distant places I hadn't seen yet, but planned to. Places where no one lied. Places where no one filed fake joint returns behind your back. Later that week, I walked through the house with a contractor. I want the bedroom repainted, I said. Flooring too. New bed. New everything. He nodded and scribbled notes. Oh, I added. And that walk-in closet? Tear it out. I want something simpler. He smirked. Ex-wife sighed. I just smiled. I'd stopped checking her social media weeks ago. But people still talked. Mutual friends quietly let things slip. Not gossip, just facts. Lana had moved in with a cousin across town. Her affair with Nathan had ended almost immediately after the lawsuit was filed. Apparently, he hadn't signed the second loan agreement. Walked away the moment things got complicated. She tried to reach out to him several times. No response. Burned both bridges. One in Texas. One in Colorado. Now she stood alone on the ashes. Her law firm asked her to take a leave of absence to handle personal matters. Translation: your reputation is damaging the firm. That's what happens when you use falsified information in a federal tax filing and it gets quietly leaked to HR. Claire had sent the right packet to the right person. No drama. No lawsuit. Just exposure. No threats. Only truth. I didn't enjoy hearing it. But I didn't pity her either. She made the choices. I just refused to clean up the mess for her. Claire and I met for lunch 2 weeks after the finalization. How does it feel? She asked over iced tea. Lighter, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Not happier? I thought about that. No, not yet. But cleaner. And that's more than I expected. She nodded. You did it right, she said. Most people scream, beg, post online. You built a wall of facts and walked away. That was the plan. And it worked. By April, the house looked different. Neutral tones. Modern trim. Less clutter. Less memory. I'd cleared out the last drawer of old letters. Burned them in the fire pit one evening. Not as a statement. Just as a finish line. Some things don't deserve a box in the attic. Some endings should be permanent. One afternoon, I found myself at a small bookstore downtown. I hadn't been there in years. I picked up a travel guide to the Pacific Northwest. Flipped through it. Page after page of trails, forests, coastal roads. The last time I considered a trip, it was always a we. Now it was just me. And I was okay with that. Better than okay. Free. I saw Lana once, by accident. It was May. I was leaving the grocery store with a bag of oranges and coffee filters when she walked in through the opposite doors. For a second, she froze. Looked older. Duller. She wore sunglasses but not makeup. Her hair tied back, messy. Not casual messy. Exhausted messy. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. We passed each other like strangers. Like people who had never shared a life. That night, she texted me one last time. I miss who we were. I didn't reply. Because who we were never really existed, not the way she pretended it did. That illusion had died long before the IRS sent that letter. And I wasn't dragging its corpse any further. The first morning of June, I packed a small duffel bag, fed the neighbor's cat for the last time, and locked the door behind me. No goodbye notes. No forward address. Just one line texted to Claire. Off the grid for a while. If she tries anything, call me. Otherwise, I'm gone. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and nothing more. Perfect. I headed west. No flights. No hotels booked. Just the road, the silence, and the kind of peace you only get after fire has cleared the field. I stopped in New Mexico first. Quiet town, cheap motel, empty diner. No one asked questions. Nobody knew my name. It was exactly what I needed. Driving became a kind of meditation. The hum of tires on highway, the endless sky, the sensation of being small again. I didn't think about Lana. I didn't think about Nathan. Not out of suppression, just no need. They were done. Their chapter closed. Signed, stamped, archived. What mattered now was this. Gas in the tank. A clean windshield. The next turn. In Oregon, I walked through a trailhead that had been in one of the guidebooks I'd bought. Dense pines. Quiet air. Mist rolling low like a breath held too long. There was a spot near a cliff, overlooking the ocean. No fences, no benches, no markers. I sat there for an hour, not thinking, not planning, just being. I realized something important. I didn't feel broken. Not hollow. Not numb. Just clear. That was worth more than any revenge. I started writing again, not emails, not legal responses, but small notes to myself in a pocket journal. Nothing dramatic. Just thoughts. Things like, she didn't break you. She just revealed where your boundaries were too loose. Or, peace doesn't scream. It settles. I wasn't trying to be poetic. I was trying to remember who I was before I forgot myself for someone else. One night in a quiet inn off the Pacific coast, I met a couple from Montana. Retired. Married for 40 years. We sat on the porch drinking tea, listening to the surf. They didn't ask about my past. But the husband looked at me and said, "Takes guts to start over. But the good kind of guts." I nodded. Didn't say a word. Didn't need to. 2 weeks into the trip, I stopped at a small general store in a coastal town. The woman at the counter smiled. "Just passing through?" "Maybe," I said. "You've got the look," she said. "People who pass through always look like they've left something behind." I smiled back. "I didn't leave it behind," I said. "I threw it out. I never blocked Lana's number. I didn't need to. But the texts stopped on their own. The calls ended. At some point, even ghosts realize they're not welcome. And the quiet stayed. I came back in late July. The house didn't feel haunted. It felt like mine. Every object had its place. Every drawer, every door, untouched since I'd left. I changed the bedspread again. Got rid of the last glass she used. It wasn't about bitterness. It was about claiming space. The next week, I finally changed my phone number. New number. New plan. No forwarding. I called Claire once, just to check in. She laughed. "You sound like you slept through an earthquake." Maybe I did. Still planning to stay single for a while? I smiled. "I'm not planning anything. I'm just living." "Good," she said. "That's the point." One night, months later, I opened the photo album she'd sent. Not to reminisce, to decide what to do with it. I flipped through each page slowly, like walking through an empty house I'd already sold. At the last page, I paused. There was a photo of us on the back porch, summer evening, holding drinks and smiling like people who hadn't yet destroyed each other. For a brief second, I felt something. Not love. Not regret. Just the echo of a lesson. And I closed the book. Burned it in the fire pit. Watched the smoke curl into the night sky. Some people want closure from the person who hurt them. They want apologies. Reckonings. Explanations. I didn't need any of that. I had the truth. I had the documents. I had the silence that came after the final word. This wasn't a story about a man who was cheated on. It wasn't a story about tax fraud or secret apartments or emotional betrayal. It was a story about clarity, about seeing what someone really is and deciding that the best revenge is no revenge at all. Just distance. Just control. Just walking away whole.